I finally pulled the trigger on a piece of equipment that I've been looking at for months, and I'm going to talk about that next. Welcome to Big Monster Brewing. I am Matt, and in this episode, we're going to talk about what has, honestly, by the time I finished filming the footage I'm going to share in this episode, is probably now my favorite piece of brewing gear, or I guess I should say home brew beer gear, because I don't need it to brew. It's kind of a, if I didn't have it, it would change nothing in my brewing, but I still love it. And what I'm talking about is the Oktober Design SL1 can seamer. I've been looking at this can seamer since they announced it in October 2018. It's now summer 2020. As of the time I'm recording this, I want to say back and forth. I always knew I wanted it, but I finally convinced myself to get it. What was that? That's a year and a half later, year and 10 months. I don't know what the exact math is. So summer 2020, I finally ordered it, and probably the worst time to order it because every brewery in this country is battling ways to get their beer out, and ones that don't have access to canning lines or mobile canning lines or are able to package their beer are probably hitting up October for these devices. And with that, it did take, I think in the end, by the time it arrived, 5 weeks to arrive, but it's here and I couldn't be happier. I don't know if I'm blowing the lead on what I'm about to talk about, but I don't care. I'm just that excited about this piece of gear. So this video, we're going to walk through my first run of it, but before that, we're going to kind of do an unboxing, but an unboxing on the way this channel does it. There's unboxing videos are synonymous with YouTube. I just didn't do it that way because I don't really have the equipment or the, I was going to say know-how, maybe the desire to do it that way. So it's going to be a narration unboxing, much like the brew days. So let's get into that first. Any unboxing starts, of course, with the boxes. And along with the SL1 steamer, I ordered a case of 16-ounce cans. I do intend to put 12-ounce cans in the mix. I even intend at this point to put 8-ounce cans in the mix. We have an annual Halloween party. Don't know what we're going to do in the ways of a party this season, so I might do 8-ounce flights, like double flights, to give to everybody, and maybe we'll Zoom the party. Maybe we'll do it in a couple of different Zooms. I don't know. That might be something we talk about on this channel as well. But that's something to talk about in the future. Let's get back to the unboxing. I always enjoy orders where I get multiple boxes, and the smallest box weighs 10 times more than the bigger box, and that was the case here. I don't know remember what the numbers were, except that the seamer label said 35 pounds. I don't remember what the can label said. I just remember it being insanely light. I was really surprised. What I should say, I was really surprised that 192 16-ounce cans were as light as that box was. I guess my mind thinks of a full 16-ounce can, which is a pound. I don't know if a fluid ounce is the same as a pound, but we'll call it a pound. No, this was not 192 pounds. It was like 192 ounces, maybe. I'm not sure what that works out to. Since I did have that 5 weeks to wait, when I made my order, I was emailed the PDF for the SL1 steamer, and I printed it out, and I read it about 50 times between the time I ordered it and the time it arrived. So I got everything I needed ready for assembly. The assembly on this is so minimal, there's no other word. It's minimal. So I needed one tool, a 7/16 inch wrench, which I had ready for the past 3 weeks. So now let's get to the true unboxing. Let's take a look inside the steamer box first. That was what I'd been waiting for. So like I said or alluded to, assembly, there's not much to it. The steamer comes almost entirely assembled. In fact, I don't know how many parts are on this, but I don't think it's a far cry to say this thing arrives 99% assembled. It is heavy. That 35 pounds was no joke, and I carefully used both hands to take it out of the box. Still working on exactly how to move this from point A to point B, because that top piece that you saw or will see throughout this video is plastic. It's super secure. I'm just worried about the weight putting stress on what's holding it onto there. So I have been avoiding grabbing that top plastic piece, but I haven't quite figured out how to pick this up the most, elegant way, I should say. I've gotten it to point A to point B just fine. I'm just glad no one took video of it when I did, because it was probably very silly looking. After taking out the seamer, there was another box inside, so there is a little bit of an unboxing here, a little bit of a reveal. I took the box out, I opened it, and there were a couple things I expected to see and a couple surprises. First was a tube of food-safe grease, which they said was going to be included. We used that to lubricate the different parts and to apply it to the hardened steel so it doesn't rust. This is cool. I wasn't expecting this. This is a window cling for to-go cans, and I kind of want to put it in my window, maybe when we have the parties, and hopefully remember to take it down. I don't know. Chances are my wife's not going to let me actually put it in a window in her neighborhood, so it'll probably go somewhere in a garage with all my brewing equipment. So Oktober Design business cards. And then the one piece that we need to fully assemble the SL1, that is the handle for the seam rollers. That is literally all we're putting on. We're going to do that very shortly. And then there's also a professionally printed version of the guide that I had printed out and all but memorized at this point. Anyway, now let's get to that literally one thing we need to do to fully assemble the SL1. So first I need to put the rollers into the position 0. There's 2 positions in this, 0, 1, and 2, and I will talk a little bit more about that when we get to actually using the device. So put it in the 0 position, screw in the handle, make sure that those threads are dead on. They do say that if the threads come loose and I believe it's saying the piece it goes into will strip, but if they're in there properly, you're good to go. Once I get it in as hand tightened as I can, now it comes in the 7/16 inch wrench, tighten it down, not so tight that I break anything, but tight enough that I can't loosen it by hand. And then we know we're good to go and we're assembled. This is probably one of the least exciting brewing unboxing videos ever, because it's literally 2 pieces that need to be put together and we're done. I did test out the handle just to see how this thing felt and get the idea of how to work this. And first you move it to position 1, which is to the right, and then all the way to the left, which is position 2. And there's hard stops on each one. So this already comes pre-calibrated. I think after, I want to say 1,000 cans. If it doesn't seem right, I have to buy 9 more or 8 more boxes before I have to calibrate. I have to go back and check how many cans it is. After a certain amount of cans, they suggest you calibrate, but it already comes pre-calibrated, which I do find out later. Spoiler alert, that is true. And this thing has hard stops, so there's really, it's pretty foolproof. I mean, you move it until you can't move it. You can't really force it with all these metal parts. It's not like a piece of plastic that's going to snap. And then you move it in the second position with another hard stop. It's not taking me long to really not only be impressed, but fall in love with this piece of gear straight out of the box. Now that it's fully assembled, I take a good look at it, front to back, top to bottom. Everything is so clean on this. And I mean, in terms of design, considering the design of this from the homebrewer's perspective, it's just a really impressive piece of gear from every bit of it. Just looking at the craftsmanship of the machined seamer wheels, the way the motor's mounted, even though the motor's exposed, it doesn't feel like it's been slapped together by any means. Maybe now having used it, a splash guard would be cool, but once you know how everything works, it doesn't take a lot to work around that. And seeing what Oktober Design has been doing, it wouldn't surprise me if there's going to be an add-on sometime later down the road. That's obviously not their focus right now. Their focus is turning around machines as fast as they can and getting them into breweries' hands that are buying them, is what it comes down to. But I don't even really have any, taking a good look at it, I don't have any real nitpicks on it yet. And we're going to find out if I have any more once I use it. But right now, straight out of the box, I'm insanely impressed by this thing. But that's not the only box that came, so let's take a look at the cans. I couldn't resist unboxing the cans on video as well. And there's pretty much what you're imagining is probably what you're going to see right now. So there it is, a bunch of lidless cans, and then kind of in a little bit of a corner tucked into the top layer of those cans are the lids, which I took a look at on video as well. Pretty much exactly what I expected it to be. Maybe the newsprint that was on top and wrapping the can lids were a little bit of a surprise, but that's about it. I absolutely wanted to test this out. Before I even started putting beer in the cans, I wanted to make sure everything was right. If there was some kind of mechanical malfunction or some questions I had, I wanted to get that out of the way before I even started pouring beer in the cans. So I pulled out all the dented cans I could find, which weren't a lot. In fact, I pulled out even some that were pretty perfectly pristine. And I filled them. I was going to go ahead and do a water test on them, but I figured if they seem fine, I don't have any problems, I don't want to waste the cans. So I actually filled them with bottled spring water. I sanitized them like I would with beer cans, sanitize the lids, the whole 9 yards, the entire practices I would do with beer, but I put water in the cans. And there's a reason why I went ahead and put a bottled spring water in, which we'll get to shortly. I don't know why I keep prefacing that we're going to talk about it, because obviously we're going to talk about it. I set up the canner in front of the screen in my garage because I didn't know what the splash was going to be like from the can. So I wanted to make sure I didn't get things kind of splashed all over the garage. So I put up the screen. I put up that towel right where I thought the momentum of the spinning of the can of the sanitizer would be on the outside would be, and got ready to can. Like I said, I sanitized the cans, filled them with water, put the lid on, and then into the canning process. It doesn't get much easier for a manual device that does what the seamer does. I have to lock it into place, which there is no gray area whether this is locked or not locked into place. You know it. Then I switch it on. I put the rollers in position 1, do the first seam, then over to position 2, do the second seam. They recommend doing it for 2 full seconds. I kind of was doing a 1-2 count, I don't know when that was. I know that wasn't like a 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. And I mean, it was obvious that thing was sealed. You can feel it. That's the other thing too. Apart from the hard stop, there is a very tactile part of this that you can feel that you're done. It's like the resistance stops. That's what it comes down to, because the seam is done. And since you have that hard stop, there's no more resistance. So it didn't take long at all for me to get a rhythm going. In fact, it took me far longer to fill the cans with water than to seam the cans. This thing, I sound like a broken record. And believe you me, I did not get anything free in this. So I am telling you this from a perspective of a fully purchased a consumer that purchased thing at full price. And I'm still just absolutely raving about it. This thing is so much, it's fun to use, and it's a really cool thing to have, but we're still not done. So let's keep going here. So now that I have some cans of perfectly fine spring water seamed, I can't just kind of let it go there. So I have one more item that I did order shortly after this, the SL1 arrived. And this is not from Oktober Design. This is from Amazon. This is the Label Wizard. This is a small wooden, I guess you'd call it an alignment tool to put labels on bottles and cans. And I bought it specifically knowing I'm going to be canning my beer. And since I had this water, I went ahead and designed a label for a specific purpose. And that was to label this as a beer for my dog for when we go to breweries or if we ever get to go to festivals again, so that she doesn't feel left out. I think it's going to be a fun thing to take along. We go when there are festivals to go to. We go with a couple of friends that bring their dogs as well, and it would be kind of fun to let them join in. The dogs will have no idea what's going on. We'll enjoy it. To crack open a cold one out of a can and give it to the dog. So that is what I ended up doing. I ended up making these labels on these cans, and I'll probably make more as time goes just because it's fun. So that's a long and short of my time so far with the Oktober Design SL1. I don't think it's going to come no surprise as you if you lasted this long in the video for me to say that I absolutely love this thing so far. I'm going to be putting some beer in it next very soon, actually, as of this recording. So the video should be coming out sometime in the rotation as well. I think everything I wanted to say about it, I've said. I will admittedly say it's not the cheapest thing that I bought. And I don't need it, but I did want it. And even having bought it outright directly from the factory or wherever it's coming from their warehouse, from the supplier, I feel like it was a fantastic investment. Might be a weird word because I don't know what I'm going to get out of it in return, but I think it was a fantastic purchase. If I were to ever open a brewery, which I don't think that's going to be a thing, I guess it would be an investment, but I have no buyer's remorse. The second I spun that up and sealed those cans of water, I was so glad I bought this. And I did buy it specifically so I could can beer. The people that I like to get beer to, my friends, bottles is a very tricky thing to get to them and feel comfortable that they're going to get there. Cans gives me a huge amount of relief as far as that is concerned in the future. Obviously, the seams could leak, but leaking is way better than getting them just shards of glass. I mean, I think that's pretty obvious. So it will be showing up again. It's going to be showing up a lot on this channel as I go. It might even be when I know I'm going to full out canned beer. It might show up in the segments of the brew that I'm making. We'll see. There's no doubt that's going to show up from time to time. So if you don't want to miss those, please subscribe. If you enjoyed what you saw, please like this video. All that's left to say, of course, is thank you for watching. There'll be some more videos coming soon. Some more on the SL1, maybe even some straight up canning videos of beer. And there's always going to be Anvil Foundry Brewing. There's some right behind this, and actually I'll be brewing between this posting and the next posting anyway. So that'll be a constant rotation. So again, if you don't want to miss any of that, subscribe. That is it. Thank you again for watching. I'll be back with another video very soon.